Hey, it's Nat, and I wanted to do a video for you today relative to presenting, training, facilitating, speaking in front of groups, in terms of building our skill in doing that and feeling confident in doing that. Why is it important to practice privately, one-on-one, setting boundaries and communicating in ways that help bring about the kind of outcomes that we want? Why is it important to do that privately before we start taking those skills to doing it in front of a group, which you may or may not already be doing, depending on what stage you're at in your journey? But yeah, I wanted to talk about that today. Relative to, now some of you who know me know that I have a performing arts background, so you know that I already had a bit of familiarity with like the group space before I ever came to the therapeutic space, right? But traditionally, and tell me if it's been this way for you too, in the counselling or the coaching or the NLP kind of skills training environments, generally speaking, the way it goes is that you work on the one-on-one skills before you go to the big scary group facilitation ones, right? And there's kind of, if you think about it, there's a good reason for that, yeah? Because it's kind of, there's not as much to think about when you're doing it with just one person, one-on-one, yeah? To think about what you've got to think about and the processes that you've got to manage. But when you take it to a group instead, more processes, more elements, more things to think about, right? So, for example, and I think of a metaphor for this, right? Too. I think of it like lifting weight, and I think of it like whether you're a guy or a girl, it's a little bit like you having 2.5 or 5 kilo dumbbells, and you kind of doing a few of these, right? And as you get towards doing, depending on how much of that you've done, as you get towards doing either 5 or 15 of those on either side, like part of you is going, oh, I'm very aware that I have arm muscles right now, but if you're not that fit or you are fit, it's reasonably achievable, right? Lifting 2.5 or 5 is pretty, it might feel a little bit like you're feeling it, but it's achievable. Whereas when you go in front of a group, whether you're training, coaching, facilitating, or speaking to that group, like there's more things to think about. When you're starting, there's things like getting people in on time. When they're coming back from breaks, there's getting them in on time. When there's T's and C's they have to sign, there's all these questions that they've got to ask that are going to bring up boundaries for you in terms of, recording things. They'll ask for extra details and push the boundaries where they can to get what they need. And in terms of therapeutic processes or facilitating, breakthrough kind of scenarios, like there's a whole heap of stuff that goes with that in terms of therapy, right? In terms of you've got an agenda you've got to facilitate overall, you've got a certain amount of time to do it in, you've got a certain amount of participants, there's things you've got to think about in terms of if somebody wants to spill their whole lifelong process of stuff in the middle of it, do you really have the capacity to do that with 30 people? Is it safer and more ethical to kind of manage their process within that? There's all these things you've got to think about, right? As well as you just leading the process of facilitating it or training it or speaking the way through it. Like, there's all this stuff to think about. And in that respect, that's why it's a little bit like you trying to lift boy or girl, no matter what your gender, it's a little bit like you suddenly trying to lift 150 from here, like this, right? That's a little bit more challenging and can certainly bring about a little bit more anxiety, right, than one-on-one. Because particularly if you're feeling like in your personal life, if you feel a little bit like sometimes like, holy shit, I feel like I can't even manage like communicating about what I want with one person. Like, how am I going to get 30 people to respect me in a group space, right? There's a part of you that if you go into that place, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, your mind's ticking away going, well, if I don't have the skill to do that, I need to be anxious because the odds of something going wrong are higher and then the consequences are going to be worse and blah, 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 blah. Then you spin out a bit mentally, right? This is just why part of the things that you're thinking about and the mindset that you're managing, it feels heavier, yeah? But in good news, there are things that we can do to help build your confidence early on both in groups, but coming back to sometimes one of the best ways to do this is to take it back to applying some of these skills one-on-one before we take it into the group environment to like build your skills and build your muscles doing it one-on-one and communicating these kinds of things one-on-one in little role play scenarios before you take it to real life. So as you feel more confident and your anxiety is less by the time you take it to a group scenario, right? So, for example, there is this great little activity that you can do with a partner. You may or may not both want to have turns. This can be anyone. This can be a partner, it can be a work person, it can be a friend, whoever. Or you can just have them ask the questions and just ask them of you if you just want to practice it that way. But basically what they've got to do is ask you a series of questions ranging from the completely reasonable in terms of, can I pay you a compliment right now? Might I buy you dinner? Can I give you a back rub? Anything in this realm of reasonable, through to the absolutely ridiculous, like, can I please bring 3 horses and a circus into your lounge room tonight for the evening just because it would be fun, wouldn't it? Or, can you please give me your card so I can please go to the bank, take out 10 grand and pay off 2 credit cards of mine? Would that be fine with you? Because I'd be fine with that, right? And then, depending on what the scenario is, then either of you, whoever's answering, has to answer with either yes, and you can play with this and have as much fun with this as you like, right? And it is, like, you can feel into what it's like to have fun when you say yes to the elephants going through your lounge room and the horses and whatever, right? As opposed to then you can be a bit more serious and feeling into, like, when am I legitimately really like a no to this? And then you can practice saying your no's. Or you can feel into, maybe they've asked you something like the back rub or a foot rub. Like for you and me, I might be like, oh God, I've got to wash my feet first before you're coming anywhere near my feet. So, I might be like, I'm not sure. Or you might be like, oh, pending negotiation, this is getting gross in a hurry. Pending me going and washing my feet. Oh, sure, you can give me a foot rub, that's fine. Right? This has gone somewhere I totally didn't want it to go. Anyway, so those are your options, right? You can negotiate it more. So you might then say they want to buy you dinner. For example, then you can say, well, I'm hearing that you're wanting to buy me dinner. I'm a little bit worried about the timing of that, and then you can put your requirements on the table of, this is what time I've got to be done by, and is that okay? They'll say yes or no. You can negotiate further things in terms of maybe they need a ride after. You can say, that's okay, I can take you to the station, or whatever the thing is, right? And you come to a point of a mutual agreement, you come to a yes, you come to a no, you come to further negotiation until you come to an outcome. And you can play with all kinds of scenarios with this, right? From the guy at the train station who asks you for $5 to the guy at the bar who is all insistent on you coming and having dinner at his table, and then when you say no, ladies, tell me if this has happened to you too, that he's all like, oh, you effing bitch. So you can role play your response to them. You can role play your response to your partner in terms of whatever you want to get more practice at, or in terms of, now, you're not going to manifest this, right? You are not going to manifest that annoying audience member that's going to challenge the crap out of all your IP, because you're putting out there that you're going to have some beautiful, loving people in your space that you can be of service to, and that's what you're going to manifest. But suppose you wanted to build your confidence in role-playing. How would I deal with that obnoxious individual? You can maybe role-play with that. Do whatever you like, right? To get more confident in, it's just... In the improvisation, you build your confidence in working through how you would respond. And you can work through your responses. That's okay to work through your really aggressive ones that to any number of those would be like, right? To just walking away and ghosting them, to whatever. It's okay to walk. And so it's part of the point, is to feel into your authentic responses so you get more practiced in the moment when you're feeling into the stress of it, how you can deal with it so you can say it with more of this, right? With more of it. See, this is my new thing, right? I got this before my surgery recently, but it's going hand in hand with this intention of mine of being more available, being better at receiving and lowering my wall a little bit. So the metaphor just came to mind of wearing your heart on your sleeve a little bit more, right? In all aspects of your communication. Because it all gets better when you do that. And the ultimate benefits of all of this, you become more confident you become less passive aggressive, less actually aggressive in communication scenarios, and in terms of eventual group numbers, you'll be able to handle more of them. That's not to say that you won't be able to handle more of them in a scenario when you get thrown in the deep end. Lord knows those things will happen. Lord knows I've had my versions of those. You know, I've heard amazing speakers talking about them, and one of my versions involved me getting thrown in the tech deep end in front of an audience of 250 people when the sound amplification died, and I had to sing, project my voice to the back of a room of 250 people. Luckily, I'd rehearsed that without amplification and mics, lapel mics in rehearsal, so I could do it. Decided I was going to do it. Totally won on that particular day, brought it and got an audience on their feet who were thrilled with every minute of me like stepping up, they were like coming closer, and then I got this standing ovation at the end, right? Everybody, no matter what gets thrown at you, is capable, and I want to open up that scenario of you, if you ended up with an extra 50 people in an audience one day, you can handle that. Let's put that out there, right? But just in terms of the bits you know about, that you can account for, that you can practice, this exercise can really help with that, and that's why I wanted to give to you today. So that's it. If you have any questions or you've had any insights during this, feel free to share. I'm going to be writing more about this in my upcoming book that's about owning your voice and putting it out there, as well as my upcoming program and workshops. So if enough of you want to do it, we can certainly do some of this work and this role play stuff in some workshops. And you can get a little bit more skilled at dealing with some of these scenarios. If that would work for you, tell me if it would. So that's me done for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really beautiful to have had you here with me. And looking forward to chatting again soon. Lots of love. Mwah! Chat soon.